Welcome to the Explainer. You know, if you caught the 2026 World Cup round of 16 match between France and Paraguay, you already know it felt less like a standard football match and more like a high-tension cinematic thriller. Today, we're cutting through the raw emotion of that final whistle to deconstruct exactly how an unbeaten giant was forced to fight tooth and nail to break down one of the most organized, stubborn defensive fortresses we've seen in the entire tournament.
Okay, let's dive into this. To truly understand this tactical puzzle, you've got to feel the sheer weight of the moment in Philadelphia. The stadium lights are glaring, the atmosphere is electric, and the stakes are absolutely massive. You have unbeaten France rolling in with all the momentum and expectation in the world, stepping onto the pitch against a gritty Paraguayan squad who totally knew they were the underdogs, but were absolutely determined to rewrite the script.
Here's our roadmap for how we're breaking this down today. First, the round of 16 stage, then Paraguay's resilient first half, Mbappé's turning point, the final attacking push, and finally, we'll look at the match stats and dominance.
Part 1. The round of 16 stage, and setting the scene in Philadelphia. Moving right into Part 2, Paraguay's resilient first half, where they went about building a wall against the French attack.
Those first 45 minutes were a total clash of styles. That classic narrative of an unstoppable force meeting an immovable object, it didn't just happen here. It became the absolute defining characteristic of the game. On one side, France held relentless possession, probed the lines, and constantly created chances. But that expected French dominance crashed head-on into the reality of Paraguay's heroic defense, and the absolute anchor of that defense, goalkeeper Orlando Gil. His massive double save wasn't just a great piece of athleticism. It was a psychological lifeline. When a keeper pulls off something like that against a team like France, it electrifies his defenders and plants a tiny seed of doubt for the attackers. It single-handedly kept Paraguay alive.
Let's move to and see how this builds across the timeline. Minute 1 brings kickoff in Philly, and the energy is at an absolute peak. Fast forward to minute 25, and boom! Orlando Gil's monumental double save injects massive belief into the Paraguayan squad. Now, look at the ripple effect by minute 42. Barcola gets handed a yellow card. In a match where France is dominating the ball, an attacking player picking up a booking late in the half is incredibly revealing. It's a direct symptom of growing French frustration, right? Paraguay's wall was holding, and the unbeaten Giants were definitely showing signs of impatience heading into the tunnel.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it brings us to Part 3, Mbappé's turning point, and breaking the deadlock.
So halftime adjustments happen, but the big question is still hanging in the air. Could France find the key to a lock that Paraguay had reinforced so well? Well, France didn't just rely on their starting 11. They actively turned up the heat with targeted tactical substitutions, throwing in fresh legs to stretch that exhausted Paraguayan line. And that compounding pressure, it finally forced a mistake in the box, leading to a crucial penalty. With the weight of the entire tournament on his shoulders, Kylian Mbappé stepped up and confidently converted. No hesitation, just clinical execution right when they needed it most.
70. The 70th minute. I cannot emphasize this enough. This is the exact turning point. After chasing the ball for over an hour in a desperate low block, Paraguay's concentration lapsed for just a fraction of a second. France pressed and pressed until minute 70, and that's exactly when the match fundamentally shifted.
It took just one moment of brilliance, and France finally broke through. The scoreboard flips to Paraguay 0, France 1. Let's be honest, at this elite level of international football, that is all it takes. A single spark from a world-class player like Mbappé to completely rewrite reality. Paraguay did everything right for 69 minutes, but that one moment shattered the deadlock.
Which brings us to Part 4, the final attacking push, and those truly desperate closing minutes.
The second that deadlock broke, the entire tactical structure of the match totally reversed. Instantly, Paraguay made attacking substitutions. They had to ditch the low block and push forward with absolute desperation to find an equalizer. And France? Suddenly they're the team needing to absorb pressure, switching from aggressors to protectors. France stayed composed, sure, but they were forced to take tactical fouls to stop Paraguay's surging attacks, which led to late yellow cards from Manu Kone and Michael Olise. Those bookings are hard proof that Paraguay did not go quietly. They made France sweat right up until the final whistle. So, the crucial point is, how does this all look on paper? Let's look at Part 5, match stats and dominance by the numbers.
To fully grasp the scale of this match, check out this staggering possession split. France held 76% of the ball. Paraguay, just 24%. Just imagine that.
For 90 minutes, Paraguay was largely chasing the game, having to maintain perfect discipline without the ball for over 3/4 of the match. That is an unbelievable physical and mental marathon.
And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer, overwhelming volume of France's offensive output. 15 shots for France to just 5 for Paraguay. Then factor in the set pieces, 12 corners for France, only 2 for Paraguay. France was practically living in Paraguay's final third, constantly forcing the ball out over the end line and whipping in dangerous crosses. The pressure was mathematically overwhelming.
But hold on, looking a bit deeper into those 15 French shots reveals the true story here. Only 5 were actually on target. Paraguay managed 1 shot on target, and the goals, of course, were 1-0. This highlights something absolutely critical. Despite France's massive shot volume in all those corners, Paraguay's dense, structured defense restricted the actual damage. They forced France into taking really difficult, low-probability shots, which is exactly why only 5 ever tested Orlando Gil, resulting in just a single goal.
So it's kind of a paradox. While France absolutely controlled the match, Paraguay's defense made them bleed for every single inch. That statistical dominance we just analyzed actually highlights the incredible scale and success of Paraguay's defensive effort. To face 76% possession and 15 shots and yet only concede a single goal from a 70th minute penalty, that is a wildly successful game plan.
As the dust settles, we get that cinematic aftermath. Mbappé celebrates his decisive moment, and France successfully advances to the quarterfinals. But let's not ignore the other side. Paraguay exits the World Cup with immense pride. Their courageous 1-0 performance won the respect of literally everyone watching. They came to fight, and they pushed one of the world's best teams to the absolute limit.
I want to leave you with this final provocative thought to chew on. Yes, France advances, but does Paraguay's heroic defense prove the unbeaten Giants actually have a weakness? They were frustrated, they were dragged into deep waters, and they had to rely on a single penalty to break a stubborn low block. You better believe future opponents in the quarterfinals will be studying this tape closely, asking themselves if they can replicate and maybe even perfect Paraguay's resilient blueprint. Thanks for hanging out with me for this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.